Hello, YouTube. I hope you're having a fabulous Sunday. Instagram is so funny. So, the first post that I saw when I woke up this morning was somebody asked the question, like, single people with no kids, do y'all be bored as fuck? Like, and I have a son, and like, okay, when I was in my 20s, and this is just me personally, when I was in my 20s, when my son was in Jersey, I always had plans. Always. I didn't have plans every single night, but if I didn't go out that Friday night, trust and believe I was out that Saturday and Sunday. Like, I always was out that Saturday night, always. The pandemic happened, and I had a man, so, it was fine. But now that I'm single and he's older and I'm older, I don't always have plans. So, like, right now, my son, he's at his grandparents' house in Jersey, and I'm bored. Like, I can admit it. Like, I'm bored as fuck. And I'm happy for my son and I love my son, but I could be honest enough to say I feel like once he graduates high school and he wants to go away for college, and if that's what he want to do, I'm not going to stop him. I'm not going to say, oh, it's expensive. God will provide. The same way God provided for me to go to school and a way was made and I don't owe any loans, that same God is going to make a way for him to go to school too. Whether if I got to work 3 jobs, so be it. Like, I'm going to make it happen, because I would never want my son to resent me. Like, with me, I resent my parents for not put me through college. I do, because I feel like, what the fuck you had me for? I wanted to go away to college. I wanted to go to college in my early years, and I ended up finishing in my 30s because I didn't have the support of my parents. So I'm going to always resent them for that, because I don't think that's right. If a child wants to go to college, you as a parent supposed to help them, period. You're supposed to help them achieve that dream. If you got to sacrifice and work 4 or 5 jobs, whatever, then so be it. You do what you got to do, because at the end of the day, like my ex said it, and he was right. He was like, either if you don't put your kids through college, you're going to be paying for something. You're going to be paying for a baby or paying them for them to bail out of jail. And that's the truth, because 18, 19 years old, their brains are like sponges. They're still like babies. They're absorbing things around them. So if they absorb the wrong thing, guess what? You're going to be a grandparent before your time. And I really believe that. Now, you have some people who get pregnant and they went away to college. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about people like me. I wanted to go away to college. I wanted to go to college, and my parents did not want me to go to college. Very ignorant. I wanted to join the Navy. I was told don't do it. So you know what happened? I got pregnant. And lucky me, I was ambitious. I went to school, and I ignored what the negative things that my parents were saying about college. And I do not regret it. Yeah, I have a little time finding work, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, at least I turned down 2 jobs so far because I didn't feel like it was paying enough. So I might be going back to security, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, I would never regret my education. But I digress. But so yeah, when my son goes away to school, I'm gonna be alone. I am. And I really was thinking about that. I'm like, people that's single with no kids and no man, I think it's cool when you have a man. When you have a man, that makes a world of a difference. But for the people who have no man, y'all cannot lie that shit don't get lonely, because like I said, my son just gone for the weekend, or like the other week, what was it? Yeah, just the other week, he was gone for a whole week. I felt very lonely, very lonely. Did I go out? Yes, I went to the Janet Jackson concert with my friend, and then we went to see Common last Sunday, but I felt very lonely. So, and that's just my son going for a few days. And I never used to feel lonely, but now I do, because I don't know if it's because of I guess it's because of my age, and my circle has changed over the years. Like, the girl that I hung out with for Janet Jackson and Common, I've known her for 15 years, but my circle has changed drastically. Like, I'm not friends with certain people anymore. I still hang out with my cousin. That's really the only people I really hang out with right now is my cousin, and we don't even hang out as much. And then my homegirl Sandra. That's like the only outlet I have right now that's consistent. And I'm not seeing anybody. I'm supposed to actually see somebody today, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. But I said all that to say this, like, honest question. Those of y'all who single as fuck and y'all don't got no kids, be honest in the comments. Do y'all get lonely? Because, like, I have a son and I get lonely. And also, I commented and I said, happiness is happiness, right? If you're a happy person, you're going to be happy regardless of your situation. I'm pretty sure you have people who got 5 kids, and guess what? They still have a life. I don't know them personally, but I'm pretty sure they manage. So just like I have my son, and from the time I was in my 20s, when my son was little, I balanced. I took him to theme parks. I always spend time with my son. I miss the days of taking him to Disney on Ice and the Brooklyn Children's Museum. Like, me and my son was always outside. If I didn't have tickets for something, we went to the park and the library. And that same night, I would hang out with my friends. Like, I had a balance. I had a well-balanced life. And I miss that. And you got a lot of people, females in particular. You got a lot of females that don't have a lot of friends. They in the same boat as me. They have like 1 or 2 people to hang out with. And when those people are not available, you're just home alone. So it's like, let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. How many of y'all, and this is for married women too, y'all could chime in. How many of y'all in y'all 30s feel lonely when your children or whoever you stay with or live with, when they're not home? How do y'all feel, and how do you cope? I try to do things like I have writer's block right now or whatever. I hope I come out with my second book this year. I don't know. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your... And another thing I wanted to talk about today, another post I saw. How uncomfortable is it to ask for your own money back? Now, for me, I've been through this many a times with people because unfortunately I'm a nice person and I've lended money to people, and most people will give you an attitude for you asking your money back, right? Especially men. So the only man that borrowed money from me and gave it back to me and I didn't have to ask for it back was my ex. Like, that's the one positive thing I could say about him is he had his flaws, but when he owed me money, he always paid me back with no problem. Always. And he had 3 sources of income. So I knew he was good for it, And I told him, I was like, the last dude before him that borrowed money never paid me back, and I cut him off. So he knew, like, I was no nonsense. So, so the very first time someone borrowed money from me, I was 18. And the reason why I would never forget it is because he was so demented and so disgusting with what he was saying to me. It was like, he actually lied about his age. He said that he was my age and he had a job. I forgot what job he said he had, but he definitely said he had a job. And he wanted to borrow $20, and he specifically said, when I get paid on Friday, I'll pay you back. So I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm like, okay, whatever. Now for me, even when I was 18, I never borrowed money from nobody, not even my parents. I budget myself accordingly because I just looked at my parents and I never wanted to be them. That's just me. Like, I never wanted to be a charity case. Like, I feel like if you don't have it, just go without. That's just my belief, but to each their own. So I found out later, because he came clean. He was 17 still in high school, and had no job. And I was livid. I was like, don't ever talk to me in your ever fucking life. Da, da, da. He was like, why you tripping? You only 18. I said, it doesn't matter. I'm 18, but I fuck with men. I told him, frankly, like, I deal with men in their 20s or somebody that, I'm 18, whatever. You said that you had a job. Bottom line, whatever. And I said, technically I'm not supposed to be dealing with you because you're still a minor. I'm not. I'm 18. And it pissed me off. He's like, he's like, what's the big deal? I said, it's a very big deal because I'm in college. Like, I did go to college for one semester so I graduated from Mercy 2 years ago, but the very first time I stepped foot in Mercy was fall 2007. So at this time, I'm in college, like, I'm working, and I'm like, I'm grown, I'm 18, but you're in high school. Like, I don't want to talk to somebody that's still in high school. You're still a little ass boy. Whatever. So I was like, where's my $20? So he was like, he wished that he could doodle and pee on me. That's exactly what yes, you heard right. He said that he wished he could doodle and pee on me. I don't know where that came from, but I'll never forget it because it's like he was so angry that that's how he thought about me in the moment. He was like, yo, I wish I could piss and shit on you. I'm like, what? Because you owe me $20? He was like, you going hard for no reason. I said, I'm going hard because you need to grow the fuck up. If you want to date a grown woman, be a grown man. You're not a grown man. You think it's okay to borrow money from people? Like, I went off on him. I said, you're a thief. You had no intentions of paying me back, knowing that you could not pay me back. And then you pissed off because I'm asking for my fucking money. Are you dumb? So I told my father the situation. And my father offered to go upstairs because the guy was from my building. So my father was like, yo, let me get your money back, whatever. I was like, no, Dad, you know what? Just let it go. Like, even though I was 18, I was like, you know what? He's not even worth it. He's a little boy. And I pray that he gonna borrow money from the right one. And yeah, they will find him in a cut. And it's funny because after that, I never saw him again. Mind you, I didn't move out until I was 22. But after that incident with him, I never saw him again. So I don't know if he moved or maybe he ran into the wrong person, because I feel like people who do that, they not gonna prosper in life. You don't do no shit like that. Now some of y'all might say, oh, he was just a little kid. Okay, but when I was 17, I never did that. I would never first of all, I don't borrow money from people at all. I've never. And I don't boast myself, but I thank God that I've never been in a position where I needed to borrow. Never. I've never been in that position. And I pray that I never get to that position, because you're a fucking charity case. Like, you're a whole grown adult with an income. You should never have to borrow nothing from nobody. I'm sorry. You should have enough money in your savings. You should be able to budget. So if you need to borrow, that means that you overspent yourself. It's something that you did wrong, period. And it's the truth, So I was so livid at him because it's like, yo, that was the first incident that somebody owed me money. So then I told y'all about Ivan, right? Like, he, this is how he did it. He was like, same thing. Oh, when I get paid, I'll pay you back. Looking back on it, I don't think Ivan had a job. I don't think he did, because, and it was funny because he told me how we can't be together because I live at home with my parents. Mind you, I'm 21 years old. I'm very young. He's telling me we can't be together because I live at home with my parents. I don't have a job. Like, all these excuses, right? Come to find out, he was living at home with his mom. He was 30 years old living at home. And I said, at least I'm on the waiting list. And like, I told him that. I said, okay, I live at home now, but I'm on the waiting list. Do you understand what that means? That means that I'm next in line to get my apartment. I'm going to get it soon. I'm only 21 years old. I moved out when I was 22. And after I got my apartment and I told him, it didn't change our status. And That was another post I saw on Instagram. They was like, oh, men have a right to have standards too, blah, blah, blah. With my experience, and he was not the only one, it was him, and I was thinking about this, it was another guy that I dealt with. He said the same thing. Oh, you live at home, you don't have a job. Like, niggas was on my case. I remember that. I remember not all the guys I dated, but during that time, there was 3 particular guys that was on my case about my situation. Oh, you're unemployed. You live with your parents. You shouldn't even be thinking about a relationship. You need to get your shit together, da 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 da, right? And so when I got my shit together, mind you, while I was unemployed, I was in trade school. I wasn't no slouch. I was not on welfare, none of that. But to them, they didn't care about that shit. But so mind you, I'm on unemployment. Just keep this in mind. I'm on unemployment. My son is a baby. My son was like 2 at this time. So I told him, I was like, yo, so I'm gonna have to take the first $20 I took from myself. Then I was like, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay me back. I was being nice, right? He borrows money from me again. This time it's $25. So I told him, I said, Ivan, you're going to have to pay me back because I'm taking this money. Because back then, I didn't have a savings account for myself. I only had it for my son. And I told him, I said, I am taking this money out of my son's savings account. Okay? You're going to have to pay me back because this is not even, I don't even like doing this right now. I'm touching my son's money. You know, I have a son, he's 2 or whatever, but just understand. I told him to his face, like, and I'll never forget, we were at the ATM and I was taking the money out. I said, I'm going to need for you to pay me back because I'm taking this out of my son's account. You know, this nigga going to say weeks later, oh, it's only $25. Okay, if it's only $25, right, why you can't pay it back? You're the one who has a job, right? Something that I don't have. I have unemployment, right? You on my case talking about we can't be together because I don't have a job, but you're borrowing money from me and you're not even paying me back. So that's $45 you owe me. Not even, well, the first 20 I said you didn't have to pay me back, but $25 plus when we hanging out, I'm paying for all the dates. So who's really, you know, and it was just crazy that he had his standards, but you don't even pay for dates. And then I find out that, because the girl who contacted me, she claimed he was his girlfriend. She's like, oh, because he told me, he was like how his mother was spending the night with him. He used to just come out and say that. And I said, why would she be spending the night? So I'm thinking, okay, he must have a girlfriend or something, because what mother is just gonna be crashing at her son's house? Like, I'm like, that don't even make sense. Come to find out, oh, they live together. He lives with his mother. So then when I confronted him about it, he was like, oh, that don't change who I am. I said, yes it do, because you put me down for living at home with my parents and I'm 21 and I'm on a waiting list. Like, you're not even trying to get a place and you're 30 and you telling me that, oh, you don't have your shit together. And then it's like, if you have a job, why is it that I'm always paying for dates? Why is it that I'm paying for everything and you never have it? And you like, oh, you saying you don't have money because you need to pay rent. What rent are you paying if you living with your mother? Like, and I'm like, that was the second thing. Then, that was 2011. So 2014, my first and last girls trip. Now, my former friend, she did tell me in advance. She did say, oh, I don't have the money. And I was like, so who else am I supposed to get to take your place? Because we had planned this. Like, everything was already booked, whatever. And she was like, she didn't get her tax money. I'm like, I understand that, but I don't have anybody to take your place. Another friend was supposed to come along and she told me from the gate, yo, I ain't got no money. I'm not going to be able to come. So this former friend is asking about the same girl that I'm friends with now, 15 years later, that we hang out, go to play concerts and clubs and stuff. She's like, oh, is Sandra coming? And I'm like, no, Sandra says she don't have the funds right now. So that, no, she was supposed to come with us, but she didn't. So she's like, oh, my tax money didn't come, da da da. I was like, yo, I don't have nobody to replace you. Like, you're gonna have to come, because what are you saying? So the agreement was, when she got her tax money, that she would pay me back. So we go on our trip. I had a good time. She seemed a little miserable, but I personally had a good time, minus her attitude, right? So, this is the same bitch that said I had an attitude at her 30th birthday, and she cut me off for one incident, whatever. But I was like, whatever. She had an attitude at Myrtle Beach, because that's where we went, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna cut you off for one incident. I would never do that, unless if the incident is like really crazy, or if you're a guy trying to holler and I just feel like the incident can't be erased from my memory, something like that. But I give people chances. People are human, right? People are human. So I let that slide or whatever. And it was funny because she gets a new car. So she gets a new car, she puts it on Facebook, and I'm like, well, where's my money? She's like, oh, but didn't you say I could pay you back when I can? I said, yeah, but clearly you have the money. I said, how would you feel if somebody owed you money for something and they posted a new car? How would you feel? She's like, oh, but I needed a new car and I live in Long Island and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with me. The agreement that we had is when you got your funds, you would pay me back. So, which she did, whatever, which she did. But I had to go to her. Like, it was very uncomfortable for me to come to her like, oh, whatever, because, and everybody was like, you should have cut that bitch off. You should never have to da-da-da-da. She know you a single parent and this, that, and the third, and whatever. I wasn't going to let a girl's trip ruin our friendship. That's just my mentality. I was only 25 at the time, but I was mature to know, I was like, I wasn't going to let that ruin our friendship. We ended up not being friends 4 years later. 4 years, which is no time. 4 years later, we haven't spoken. Last time I spoke to her, she was very angry through text, and it was like, nobody did nothing to you, but whatever. But that was that. And then I had dated, remember I told y'all about the broke man, the boss broke man, the broke businessman. Yeah. So he borrowed $200 from me, and this was after I broke up with my military ex. I was lonely, and I went back to the ex before him. And so we messed around, whatever. And so the next morning, he's like, oh, can I borrow $200? So I thought it was kind of strange, because what type of man are you to ask a woman for money after y'all do the do, right? That's just kind of weird. Like, who does that? So I made the mistake of telling him I switched jobs. Like, he knew I wasn't doing security no more. And at this time, now I'm a para. So he automatically assumed that I'm making all this money. I kept my mouth closed. I'm like, no, I actually was making more money at World Trade Center, but I didn't tell him that. But so I get the money out the ATM, and he's like, oh, I'll pay you back, da da da. So 2-3 weeks go by, and he's like, oh, you want it up in interest? Like, he was being funny. So I had to get a new phone. I forgot what they said. You know how, like, they tell you at the store. Mind you, this is 20. I've had this same phone number since 2018. So they told me I had to change the number, and I did. So I did not give him my new number on purpose, because I feel like you a thief. You had no intentions of paying me back. And it was just hurtful, because it's like, wow, like, he really played me. Like, you borrowed $200 with no intentions of giving it back to me, and then when I ask for it back, you like, oh, you want it up with interest, like you're being funny or whatever. And that was that. I haven't heard from him since. And just in general, I try not to, I notice with people in general, people do what you allow. That's the point of this video. People will do what you allow. And there's a lot of females that have done way more for people than I have. But the little that I've done for people, what I learned about what do they all have in common is they saw that I was a nice person and tried to take advantage. That's all. They saw that, oh, you know, I don't mind, Crystal don't mind, so it's like, oh, whatever. I have a good heart, but at the same time, it's like, who wants to be used, you know? So that's what I had to realize. And with the broke businessman, I trusted that he would pay me back because he had his own business. I actually witnessed the transactions of money that he had. People would give him checks in his hand. I saw it. He got me a $600 outfit for my birthday. So this was a man who had access to money, you know. But I call him the broke businessman because he would spend his money on parties, on liquor, on drugs, on, you know. So yeah, just that's just two things I wanted to talk about. I seen it on Instagram. I was like, let me just talk about it. But yeah, yeah, single people with no kids, how y'all feeling? How y'all doing out there? And yeah, how do y'all feel when y'all have to ask for y'all money back? Those are my thoughts.